On today's show, Dante Exum is going to be out for 3 months. Is the Mavs' depth ready to be tested? Yes, it absolutely is. We'll tell you how on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
We have Kyrie.
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Amazing.
Your team every day.
Still can't beat me open.
Welcome. You're locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager at the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Thanks for being a part of the show, making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. With the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day on any podcast platform. Leave a 5-star review, like the video on YouTube, and comment anything below over there. Today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use that code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. And join me from the great Slightly Biased YouTube channel. What you got for me, Slightly Biased?
I'm assuming most people are listening to this on Thursday, which means we are 2 weeks away from the Dallas Mavericks season and their trip to championship. Larry O'Brien, number 2.
The Larry O.B. coming to the Mavericks, hopefully.
The LOB.
We're getting close. Yeah, we did. You and I did the post game for the Mavs preseason game in air quotes, and Thursday Isaac and I will do the post game show for that one. And man, we're getting closer to Mavs basketball. I'm excited about it. It's game day if you're listening to this on Thursday. Today's episode though, we're getting.
I got softball before anyone thinks that I'm getting kicked out.
Yeah, there have been conspiracies about you not being allowed to do certain things, but yeah, no, he's got softball. It's his choice.
Yes, it is my choice. The preseason, I'll skip. Regular season, I'm not skipping.
There's only so many years left in those knees slightly to play softball.
That's true. I know. I know it.
Today's episode, we're going to play a game. Is this something? We're going to go back and forth, share different things. Is it something? We'll talk about AJ Lawson getting waived. We'll talk about Omax's play. We'll talk about Anthony Edwards calling out Kyrie and regretting it. Is that something? We'll go over some of the NBA GM survey answers with some good stuff about SGA versus Luka, the Mavs winning the title, all that kind of stuff. But let's start here, Slightly Biased. Dante Exum was reported today. The Mavs announced that he is going to be out, or that he had successful wrist surgery. Shams Charania of ESPN now added that he is going to be out for 3 months after wrist surgery. So the question we're doing for the whole rest of the show is this something? So I want to start with, is this something? To me, I think that Exum being out is not the end of the world for the Mavericks. We already were in a crunch of minutes with Dinwiddie, Hardy, Exum, even Quentin Grimes a little bit, playing with Luka and Kyrie, and then Clay even, as like all these guards. The Mavs had all these guards all of a sudden that they had to figure out how to get time for. But now that he's going to be out for 3 months, I think the Mavs' depth is going to be tested there. All right, you thought that we had a minute crunch. These guys got to step up. It's a lot to we get to figure out between Dinwiddie and Hardy who's going to come and fill those minutes. But also, the Mavs haven't been willing to play Hardy as the lone ball handler anymore. I think that's done. Yeah. I don't think they're going to do that anymore. And so now it's Luka and Kyrie as main ball handlers. Obviously, you're cool with that any day of the week, all the time. Yeah. And then Dinwiddie. Exum kind of was one of those guys, but everybody else is like a secondary. Hardy's a secondary. Najee can be a secondary. Grimes can be a secondary. Like, you just start going down the line. They're not going to play, Brandon Williams or Jay-Z and Gortman, the two-way guys probably, if Gortman does become a two-way guy. They're not going to play them that much. So now it's, are they ready? Are they ready to test the Dinwiddie versus Hardy and see who emerges between the two of them? And I think it may have to be Dinwiddie just because they're willing to make him a lead ball handler.
Yeah, I think Dinwiddie will be the one leaving on top there. I mean,
the octagon.
Leaving the cage, the steel match. But I think it would be hypocritical of me if I said it wasn't anything, because I was on record saying that I thought Exum would be the guy who plays the most out of that bunch of guards.
And Kidd was on the record. Kidd did an interview with Mark Stein and said that Dante was second string and that Dinwiddie was third.
I said it months earlier.
You were vindicated. You were vindicated by that. Isaac and I gave you crap for that.
So I have to say that, yeah, it is something. But fortunately, that is why you go out and get a Spencer Dinwiddie. And yes, I do think he'll be the one, which we'll see. I'm not, I love Spence. I'm happy he's back. I think he's a cool dude. He's had some great moments. I really don't. That game 7, I mean, it's crazy. He dropped 30 points in game 7 on the road. Like, it doesn't get talked about because Luka popped off and they won by however many points, and the Suns apologized to their fans afterwards. But in a game 7 on the road, like if that was
better
a
than
6,
Brunson.
yeah, if that ended up being like a 7-point win for the Mavericks or something, that is like iconic, historic, like legendary Mavs legend stuff.
And don't forget the dunk over Gobert in the first round.
Yeah. I mean, he had some moments during that postseason run. So I'm hopeful he can get, tap back into that. But, I don't think it's been a good year and a half of basketball for him. And so it's a little concerning, I think.
Yeah, it's concerning for sure. But now the depth gets to be tested. And I think they try to see a little bit clearer between Dinwiddie and Hardy. Isaac and I argued about should Hardy get a chance, and now Hardy is going to get a chance because Exum is going to be out for 3 months. So that puts him back probably at the beginning of January.
Well,
and that's a long time.
Yeah, I was about to ask, like, what does that mean for him? Because it's not like he was this solidified guy in the rotation, really. So is this like, I'm back in January and okay, I'm the 7th guy. I'm coming off the bench. I'm playing, or is this hey, just kind of a weird season for you and Hardy's been playing or Spence has been playing and you're just kind of, on the end of the bench now.
Yeah, he had a non-guaranteed contract this season, or at least going into this year, and now he's going to be a free agent at the end of this year. So this was his chance. Remember, last year he came over from Europe. He had been out of the NBA for a couple years, came over to the Mavericks, played really well last year. We really liked what we saw during the regular season. He legitimately won the Mavericks like 4 games last year and helped a lot when Kyrie was out. Then during the playoffs, just completely shrunk in the moment, and the Mavs couldn't use him almost at all the whole postseason, which was wild to see the difference between his play in the regular season and the postseason. And then now you look at, all right, now he's going to be out for these 3 months. I mean, his NBA future is now. So is this something for Dante Exum? Absolutely, this is something for him. But is it for the Mavericks? Maybe not. But yeah, it is something for Exum. Yeah,
it definitely is. And that's the sad part about it. But I want to say maybe, injuries has been a thing for him his whole career, really. But hopefully the play he had last year and what he showed when he got that opportunity, even if he doesn't play much coming back, is enough to at least keep him in the league. I don't know who that would be for, but we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. But that's something I'm wondering, though, is it's like, will it be one of those things where come January, it's just like, sorry, dude. I mean, we have these spots filled up. Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to bring up is this something. AJ Lawson gets waived yesterday. Isaac and I kind of touched on it, but I want your opinion on it. AJ Lawson gets waived. Is this something?
Sorry. I'm sorry for AJ Lawson, I guess. I don't know. I really, I consider myself a sicko to the fullest extent. Anyone who's like really getting into the weeds over the 2-ways is just another.
He was on a roster spot. They waived him. He was on a full roster spot. He was a 2-way last year. They signed him on a full roster spot, and then they just waived him. So
okay, I thought that he was back to a 2-way after the Markieff signing.
He was going. So this is the path. If you missed yesterday, this is what I explained yesterday, is that he was on a full roster spot. Like we celebrated that at the end of the season. Like, good for him. He got a bag. And then Markieff kept saying that he was going to be back on the Mavericks. He would tweet at people. He was at the LA, players only hangout thing. He was there and didn't have a roster spot. And then he went to media day and had he has this non-guaranteed deal or whatever. But they had to make some kind of move because they couldn't keep both AJ and Markieff and all the other guys. And so I think this is something because the Mavs could waive him and make him a 2-way. They could also waive him and just make Jason Gortman the third 2-way guy with Kessler, Edwards, and Brandon Williams. And then all of a sudden, AJ Lawson doesn't have a spot and he's waived. I think they did this early so that he can go have a chance to go maybe pick up with somebody else. But yeah.
Okay, so I didn't realize there was a scenario where he could be back on a 2-way.
Potentially. I think potentially he could be, but we'll see.
Right, well, yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that plays
out. We'll see. They did waive him from a guaranteed contract, salary cap stuff.
Well, that's awkward, dude. Was AJ Lawson at those LA runs, like doing the math in his head? Like, hold on a second.
He was on Twitter looking at the tweets, like, "Hey, this guy thinks he's
Mavs CBA, so somebody has to waive."
There's DMing Bobby Marks, Mavs CBA, Keith Smith, all the cap guys, Eric Pincus. He's like, "Hey guys, is this something?"
Is there any world where maybe either Luka gets traded and I'm on the roster?
That's the business of the NBA, though. You're playing with these guys and you're becoming friends. And Lively calls it was a family to him and all that. It's been so integral to his life. And then there's some guys you get cut from your family at a certain point. It's wild, the business sometimes. And then all of a sudden, Maybe AJ gets picked up by like the Clippers. He's got to move to LA. Like wild.
Yeah, maybe a team picks him up that has minutes and he like can actually play. I mean, I would be happy for him if that's the case.
Absolutely be happy for him. Coming up, I'm happy for Kyrie Irving because he got the best of Anthony Edwards in the Western Conference Finals. But what did Anthony Edwards say about it and before it and after it? We want to talk about, is that something? We'll talk about that and more coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by one of my favorites. It's Game Time. Game Time has all kinds of ticket options for you. Go check out and see what is available on Game Time. You know, it's fall right now. It's officially fall. There's all kinds of stuff. Fall is like when the sports equinox happens. We've got NBA preseason. You've got NFL going. You've got MLB games. Not in Dallas, sorry, or in Arlington. But they have all kinds of stuff like that. They also have concerts, comedy, music, theater, all that kind of stuff that you want to go check out. Right now, I just pulled up Game Time. They've got Detroit Lions at Dallas Cowboys. Tickets for $28. That actually shocked me on Game Time. $28. And then right next to it, Charlie XCX is playing at the American Airlines Center actually tonight. So maybe you'll miss that one by then. Sabrina Carpenter coming the end of the month, so you can go check out that. There's all kinds of different things like that. And while you're there, go check out the views from your seats. Go check out the all-in pricing. You just turn in the all-in pricing toggle on, and you can see all the fees that you're going to pay at checkout, all that stuff. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use that code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account, redeem that code LOCKEDONNBA. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is, huh? Anybody?
It's game day. It's game day, Dirk.
Feels good to hear that.
Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. Appreciate each and every one of you for checking out the show. And, man, Mavs play a preseason game against the Jazz tonight if you're listening to this on Thursday, which is awesome. We're excited about that. We'll have a post-game show for you. But we're playing today, Is This Something? We talked about Dante Exum, we talked about AJ Lawson. I want to get into the Anthony Edwards thing. The NBA player documentaries are coming out. Actually, I don't even know. What are they called? Starting Five? I think it's called Starting Five. Starting Five is out. It's about, following a bunch of different players' seasons. And they followed Anthony Edwards. And they followed him all the way to the Western Conference Finals when they faced the Mavericks. And I can't play you a clip. Apologies. But a bunch of people tweeted it. I quote tweeted it at Nick Van Exit. You can go listen to it. But there's a clip where they play the quote from Anthony Edwards post winning against the Suns, or against in the second round. And Anthony Edwards looked at the camera and goes, "I want Kyrie." He's like, "I want Kyrie." He basically calls him out. Yep. And then Kyrie is like, "Okay, here we go." Obviously, the Mavericks win in 5 games. Kyrie beats him. And there's a clip in the middle of this where Anthony Edwards is on the court. Derek Jones Jr. is standing next to him, and Jaden McDaniels from the Timberwolves runs by Anthony Edwards, and he goes, "Jay, you got Kyrie. I'm tired." And Derek Jones Jr. looks at him and says, "You tired?" and then they cut to like an office style talking head from Anthony Edwards, and he goes, "I should have left Kyrie alone by saying that. I wish I could go back and not say that." Slightly biased. Is that something?
I think it just shows how awesome Anthony Edwards is. I mean, I know the Mavs played him, and there's, I guess, a budding rivalry there maybe, but that's one of my favorite players in the NBA. He's so incredibly fun to watch, and his personality is just, it's great. There's a reason why the NBA pushes him as hard as they do, because he is just somebody you want in front of cameras. And he might say some stuff every now and then. You're like, "Oh, no, don't say that. Like, let's watch what we're saying, please." But ultimately, though, I think it's funny. And I even thought at the time when he said it about Kyrie, that's competition, that's competitiveness, that's wanting to go out and get it done. And I think we see why it's so incredibly rare. And in fact, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, pretty much it doesn't happen at all. It's this mythical thing where a guy's a number one option on offense and also is doing everything on defense. Those guys just don't. Yeah,
it's like Kawhi, Giannis sometimes.
Prime Kawhi would be, I mean, Giannis
prime
isn't
LeBron.
even that. Like, they don't really, and even then, like, prime LeBron would be more of a pick and choose your spots defensively. Kawhi's really the one I can think of. I mean, Kawhi.
Well, you have like the Tim Duncans who did it from
right.
the paint.
I was thinking more of like the perimeter oriented players.
Yeah,
but,
not many. Gary Payton.
That's why Kawhi for me is one of the biggest what ifs in NBA history. Like, if he was healthy, I don't know what we're talking about for him, but
I just thought it was
funny.
This Anthony Edwards quote is absolutely something to me. And to me, it's everything because I love it. I love that he came out and said that right away. It makes it interesting, makes it fun. Like that back and forth was fun. That series was fun because of it. It was also fun because of Luka making the shot over Gobert and the Mavs winning it. Our game 3 post game was legendary. There's all kinds of great things about that series. But I love it because he also did kind of the same thing with Durant in the first round. Yeah. And he called him out, and he wanted to go at him. He did the smile at him, all that kind of stuff, went at him during the game, and he won that one. So it worked out well for him. You can't just pick and choose like, well, it worked out for him and that it didn't. Oh, he's got to stop calling people out. Be you. And I like that he also owned it and was like, I wish I could take that back. I should have left him alone. Like, own it. If, like, it didn't work for you, that's fine. He'll probably do it again.
Yeah, the reason why I like it for Anthony Edwards, it just feels genuine, and it feels like it's coming from just like a competitor. It doesn't feel,
it's from a respect place.
Yeah, it's from a respect place. We know like Kevin Durant's his idol, like he idolizes him. So he talks trash to him. I'm sure he idolizes Kyrie Irving. Pretty much any guard that's like Anthony Edwards' age or younger, around that age range, idolizes Kyrie Irving because of how talented he is. It's like the same thing kind of with Luka, where it's like when Luka talks trash, it's a different type of trash than Anthony Edwards, because I think Anthony Edwards he's trying to prod you. He's trying to be funny. Luka's just like trying to rip your soul out, but it is also from that same like competitive space where it's genuine and that this guy is just an uber competitor. But how can you not love it? Honestly,
I love it. I absolutely love it. Another thing, is this something? Omax Prosper, 14 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals. Preseason first game. We didn't talk about him a ton in our post game. Played 31 minutes, missed all 3 of his threes, but went 6 of 9 from the free throw line. Is this something with Omax?
It's enough to keep me sucked in. Like it's enough for me to still be like, okay, all right, Omax, you have my attention. That's the thing for this preseason.
Can you keep my attention? This is the attention span preseason. Like, can you keep me engaged?
Yes.
So
you do
Jason Gortman, first game.
Ooh. Yes.
Catches your eye.
For sure.
But can you keep it?
Yep, that's exactly it. Hardy, same thing. It was like, okay, all right,
something.
All right.
Lively?
If you're going to shoot 40+% from 3, you have a spot.
Doesn't apply to Lively?
No, it applies to Lively for sure. Got my attention.
What happens if he loses it in game 2? Then what? Like, do you change your opinion on him?
Lively's safe. Lively is safe.
Yeah,
Lively
right.
is safe.
Yeah,
but
to me,
Omax is like, keep my attention.
Yeah, to me with Omax, he's got to prove something. Lively, we don't think has to prove anything necessarily to keep his spot in the rotation to prove, right? But with Omax, he's got guys in front of him. PJ's in front of him. I think Maxi's still, even though he's injured, is in front of him. Najee Marshall's in front of him. Clay is technically in front of him at the 3. And so he's got to keep Jason Kidd's attention and got to keep doing the little things. And what I liked about his game against the Grizzlies was that he did a bunch of little things. He did, 3 assists, 3 steals, 4 rebounds, 14 points, did a bunch of things, and he was all over the place doing Omax things. His game is not suited for Summer League. I try to get everybody to understand that when we were watching Summer League. I wanted him to look a little bit better in Summer League, for sure. You always do in some areas, especially when Jared Dudley's calling him a mini Siakam. You want him to do a little bit more of the drive and finish and do a little bit here and there, maybe a spin move, but you want to see him play with a bunch of different guys and to be able to fit in anywhere and to be able to guard guys really well and do a bunch of little things. And we did see that in that first game. And so to me, it's something like you said, a little something kept your attention.
Yeah. Just, let's just see. This is obviously a building year for Omax. I can't imagine he's in the rotation, but the hopes and dreams last year was like maybe by March, Omax is somebody who's like ready to step in. And maybe we were just a year early. I mean, I don't know.
Which is fine, right? The Mavs don't necessarily, they're not desperate to get him going, right? The same way they were desperate to get Lively to go last year.
If they need Omax, then things have gone wrong, and there's just other stuff that needs to be addressed.
I'll do a quick one here. Luka got multiple votes as best player in the NBA GM survey, where they went around and they asked all 30 GMs to vote on 50 different things. They couldn't vote for their own player. Luka got multiple votes as best player at 3 different positions. 37% said that he was the best point guard, 7% said he was the best shooting guard, and 17% said he was the best small forward, which is tied for second. Is this something slightly?
Yes. What is the argument for Luka not being a point guard? That's just what I want to know. I want to hear anyone who's putting him as small forward, what their reasoning is.
You can't have the thing where, Luka, heliocentric, handles the ball all the time, and him not be a point guard, right?
Yeah. If you're just breaking it down by, okay, who's the best point guard? If you are saying there are 5 positions, we need to figure out the 5 positions are shooting guard, small forward. What is the reasoning? Like, if you want to say Kyrie is a point guard, but Kyrie is a shooting guard through and through. Like, that is exactly the way a shooting guard plays is Kyrie Irving.
Just because he's shorter doesn't mean he's the point guard and Luka is the shooting guard.
Literally what it is. And maybe the argument is, I've heard people say your position is what you guard on defense.
Yeah, right.
But that doesn't even apply anymore today because teams are just moving guys around the court so much on defense.
Then Luka is a non-mobile wing. Like, Luka is a non-threatening wing. Then, if that's his position, because that's who he guards.
Worst player on the other team.
Yeah, his position is worst player on the other team. That's who he guards. To me, this is something because it's just confusion, and it's just so weird. But it is cool that I think he was the only player to get votes at 3 different positions, which is kind of wild. So there is a respect level there that that. Some people thought he was the best. Most people thought he was the best point guard. A lot of people thought he was a better shooting guard than SGA, than Curry, than Booker, than Anthony Edwards. Better, small forward than Kevin Durant, LeBron, Tatum.
He's flat out better than them. I mean, he's the top 2 player in the league, so I would hope so.
True. Very, very true.
Yeah.
Very true. There you go. Coming up, let's talk about some other. Is this something? Couple GMs thought that the Mavs' level of success this season was the toughest to predict. Is that something? Talk about that and more coming up.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook has all kinds of props and odds and things that you can use to get in on the action. Hey, NFL fans, you can start with a big return on FanDuel. Go see what is available to you. They have all kinds of stuff, and you can see different types of stats and live play-by-play and all kinds of stuff on the same page as you place your bets. You can get started with $200. $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Go and see what they have available. They've got all kinds of stuff. We got NBA futures. Let's go to the NBA finals. We were talking about the Mavs in the finals. The Mavs are plus 1,100 to win the NBA finals behind the Celtics, Thunder, Knicks, Sixers, weird, Timberwolves, Nuggets, and Mavs are tied with plus 1,100. So that's who they're behind right there. If you think that you know better than the books, go ahead and put some money down and see what you got. Put that first $5 down. You get $200 in bonus bets. You don't even have to win that one. That's FanDuel.com. See what is available for you.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. All right, Slightly. Is this something? Give me one of yours. Is this something?
Well, if we're gonna the GM poll, because I think you have more GM poll ones. I'm gonna. Shea was the number 1 for who's gonna win MVP this year. Luka was number 2. I don't remember the exact percentages off the top of my head. I think Shea was like 40 and Luka was 30 or something like that. And I don't know how many votes.
SGA 40% of the vote, Luka 30% of the vote. Then Embiid, Jokic, and Tatum each got 7%, meaning like 2 GMs each voted for each of them.
Okay, yeah. So for me, that kind of makes some sense because throughout the poll, you can just see that the GMs are very high on the Thunder. And I guess the idea is if you think they're going to win 60 games and be the 1 seed, a guy who's averaging 30 points a game is going to get a lot of MVP buzz and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. But so somebody brought it up to me today, and it did make me think that if there's a scenario where the Mavs are contending for a top seed in our mid-50s and wins, and Luka does Luka things, and he loses the MVP again, does that change how you think MVP voting will go for him throughout his career? And my answer to that is yes, absolutely. Like if Luka has a similar season statistically to last year and the Mavericks win more games and are the 3 seed, 2 seed, 1 seed even, and he doesn't win, then I can't help but feel like, okay, at a certain point, people are just going to talk themselves out of Luka every single year. And maybe down the line, we get like a Kobe or Shaq MVP where it's like, that's his 1 MVP. And you leave his career thinking, how did he get 1?
So I also saw somebody else say there's voter fatigue already for a guy that's never won the award in Luka.
Well, you want to know something?
Yeah.
I was the one who originally said that.
Did you?
I tweeted that out once. It went like somewhat viral.
It seems like it though. Like they're already. I mean, he is the favorite still on FanDuel to win MVP, and he has been for a couple of years. And I think that's part of it is he's been the favorite coming in, and that his team hasn't backed up the level of team success that you need to win MVP. And there's always been a team that's been better than his, right? And Jokic has these incredible stats that show up, and people get enamored by the on-off stuff and things like that. And now with SGA, everybody's just ramping up for this team to be really, really dang good. All their moves got a bunch of, I mean, you mentioned it. Which team made the best overall moves? Thunder, 37%, number one. Who'd be the most improved? Thunder, like in there. All the most underrated move, best defensive team in the NBA. They got all kinds of different votes in this. And so people are ready for them to, to be the classic, like the Warriors when Steph Curry won his second one, right? Where they were like a 70 win team and then he wins his MVP. It's I for Luka, the team success has got to come with it. But yeah, if he doesn't win it this year, there's going to be some weird thing that stands in his way because the stats will always be there. The stats have been there for 4 years for MVP.
Yeah. It's never a stat thing. It is always the win total.
Go win. Do what you want to do, Luka. People always ask Luka, what's your goals? To win basketball games. Amazing.
I'm telling you, I'm standing on this hill. If they get mid 50s wins, 54 would be my low point. I guarantee Luka wins MVP if he plays 65 games.
I need a recovery beer.
Like I can almost guarantee it.
We'll see. Hopeful. On the NBA GM survey, this one was interesting to me. 83% of GMs said that the Celtics will win the title again. 13% said the Thunder. We talked about them already. 3% said the Mavs. That means one GM out there is voting for the Mavs. Is this something?
Yeah. It's nice to be in those convos for sure.
Only 3 teams were in the combo. One GM put them there.
I haven't really fully dived into what my predictions for the upcoming season are going to be. I think Celtics winning again is a pretty safe bet.
For sure.
And we did the Shea talk, but I have no problem with people thinking the Thunder are an incredible basketball team. I mean, they're built for it. So it's funny. There's not a thing the Thunder will do in the regular season that means anything to me right now.
They're on that level.
Well, it's just that, but it's also I saw what your problems were in the playoffs, and I need to see those problems be resolved in the playoff first before I'm like, okay, here they are.
We've been over this, but they still didn't fix their like secondary ball handler, offensive creator issue in the playoffs.
That's it. I mean, J-Dub has to be that, and he on this poll he was voted the highest breakout potential. And at first I was like,
he got like 3 votes. There was like 40 players that got voted in that category.
It was like, what is J-Dub, like what does a breakout for J-Dub mean? But then I was like, oh, it's the playoffs. It's J-Dub has that postseason moment where it's like
he can become an all-star.
Yeah. But
that's a breakout.
He was kind of at that level last year, around it.
Yeah. Another one that I want to bring up. What team's level of success this season is the toughest to predict? Lakers, 17%. Houston Rockets, 13%. Pelicans, 13%, tied for second. Suns, 10%. Then the Mavs, 7%. Two GMs think the Mavs level of success is the toughest to predict. Why?
Is this the category where there was like 100 teams that got votes? Like literally,
there was a bunch. Yeah, I mean the number one got 17%.
Yeah,
these are the other teams getting votes. Sixers also got 7%. Then all these other teams got 1. Nuggets, Pacers, Clippers, Grizzlies, Heat, Bucks, and Timberwolves, Knicks, Magic, Kings. But at least 2 GMs think the Mavs are the toughest to predict.
I think that's 2 years ago, man. I really do. Like that season's just hanging over this franchise like a dark cloud for some people.
100%.
Like it's just like people saw that were like, oh, all right. So let's see. All of Luka's career, except his rookie year, they've been in the playoffs and hovering around 50 wins and have pretty much gone over their win total every time. Okay. Is this one season the outlier, or are those 4 seasons the outlier? No, this one season is the outlier.
That's the one.
The other 4 seasons are the outlier.
Yeah, I also think that there's a case if you're a GM sitting there and going, I don't believe in Jason Kidd. I don't care for Kyrie and think he's going to get injured all the time. Luka is going to miss games too. I don't like the Klay Thompson signing. It got a couple of votes for most underrated move, but it didn't get any votes for like best move. So people are kind of down on it. I don't like the Klay Thompson move. I think Jason Kidd's going to force him to play, and it's going to mess their team up. And then, Lively may have a sophomore slump. Like if you're down on all those things, then I guess I could see how you would take the Mavs and go, well, their success this season is really hard to predict because all those things could go wrong for them.
Yeah, which is totally fair. But then if you just broke it down, like you could do that for every team in the league. Like every team.
That's why they all got votes.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. So I guess it's really what matters the most to you. If I had to guess, put my mind in those GMs, I would say the Klay move is the one where it's like, how is this going to work? Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, is this going to work flawlessly? Because it's not a consensus thing that's going to be, at least in the national media, that's going to be like a flawless transition.
You look at that backcourt defensively of Kyrie, Luka, and Klay, and it doesn't scream like stability, incredible team.
Right.
That's tough.
And Clay's stock just, I think, in general's down because of his last game.
You got one more for me?
Well, it's just buying into some preseason stuff, but there's some clips going around, and I did watch this some of the Suns Pistons games. And that ball's popping for the Suns. I got to be real. The ball's flying around the court. It looks pretty good. So I'm wondering, are we sleeping on the Suns? And when I say we, I'm not just saying you and I or like Mavs fans. I'm just saying kind of in general.
I was going to say, I made the decision for the Locked On Podcast Network to put the Suns in the top of the West group in our NBA previews. We do roundtables, and so you have to put 5 in each one. I'm like, all right, there's a top 4 and then I had to make the decision. Who do you put with the top 4 of the West? One more. And I picked the Suns. We also went off of FanDuel odds, and FanDuel has them higher too. Yeah. The Suns offense was as good as the Mavericks last year. It was 9th. I don't know. Does the Suns going from 9th in offense to 2nd or 3rd? Does that change their outcome that much?
Yes.
Why?
That's a big jump.
It would be like 2 points per 100 possessions.
I think that's a fairly sizable jump. But also, what that would kind of, what more than anything else, what that would show me is that they're kind of healthy all season long, and then 2, they've bought in. Like they're kind of bought in, which would in turn make me think they're a little bit locked in defensively.
The problem to me, ask me the question, is this something?
Is this something?
No, because the problem in the playoffs, like all that ball movement stuff slows down. We've seen this year over year. Like you can't be a fast break team in the playoffs, I guess, unless you have Tyrese Halliburton. You can't be we only move the ball team. You got to isolate. It comes down to, this is the same thing we talked about with the Thunder. Comes down to your 2 playmakers. Can they make enough plays? Luka and Kyrie made enough plays last year, and PJ hit a bunch of shots and all that. And it's going to come down to those guys again. It's going to be the same thing. Maybe they won't get swept in the first round. Yeah, but it'll come down to the same stuff again. And
before Budenholzer saved his job with a finals run, that was the Budenholzer dilemma. Was they're great in the regular season, but in the playoffs they just can't. Like this offense doesn't work. But I'm interested.
Better talent with this team though. I think offensive talent than what they had there.
Especially sort of surrounding the star or the number 1 focal point. But
which is who?
Booker, has to be KD,
Booker
right?
Durant. Still KD?
I just can't. I just don't think he's that level of scorer. But
Booker got voted as the number 1 shooting guard by 23% of NBA GMs.
I was shocked. No Donovan Mitchell shout out at all there. That's a little bit surprising.
Yeah, Derek White got a vote, and Jaylen Brown got a vote, and Luka got 2 votes for shooting guard.
Jaylen Brown got an MVP vote. Did you see that?
It's probably from Jason Kidd.
maybe.
He is the best player on the Celtics.
Yeah, we had that argument a couple weeks ago too.
There you go.
Well, I'm happy that the arguments are over. 2 weeks.
Oh, let's go. We got basketball to talk about. Let us know in the comment section on YouTube or on Twitter or on Instagram at Locked On Mavs. Well, is this something? I'll put a couple of them in the comment section. Respond to that, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. Be back tomorrow, guys. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. Peace out.